call to order the regular meeting of the Brattleboro Housing Partnerships, Monday, May 20th at 5:30 p.m. in the Community Room at Letchworth. The first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of the meeting of April 29th, 2019.
I make a motion to approve them.
Thank you. Can I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any additions, corrections? Hearing none, you ready to vote? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Abstentions, no. The resident,
Can we introduce Carol?
absolutely.
Okay.
Chris, would you?
I would like to introduce our new finance manager.
Yes.
She has been with us for like 6 weeks. Yeah, through a temporary service, and will be on the staff starting next week. She's been training with Mary, so, Carol, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. First of all, good seeing the two of you again, Tom and Donna, and nice to meet you this
Nice to
evening,
meet
Jeanette.
you.
Again, my name is Carol Thomas Davis, and I'm currently a resident of Springfield, Massachusetts. And as Chris just stated, I've been training with Brattleboro Housing Partnerships for the last 6 weeks under Mary Houghton. We will be making the transition for the permanency of that position within the next week or so. As far as my experience and what brings me here, I have an extensive not-for-profit and governmental accounting experience, close to 20 years, dealing with federal funding, multiple streams of income and budgets. And I just believe my experiences and what I've seen in terms of funding and housing and other wonderful causes that ensure some sort of betterment for folks in the community would allow me to make a good contribution to the organization here. So I'm looking forward to staying as long as Chris will have me. And it's really been a great introduction, a great 6 weeks for me, being here and learning more about what we do here in the community, meeting some of the residents, sitting in on the second resident attended community talk that I have been a part of. So I'm really glad to see more faces. And I can be a little long-winded, so I'll stop. But really great to be here.
Carol, we're looking forward to working with you.
Thank you so much.
That will be great.
Yeah.
And seeing some residents. Open for resident and citizen participation. So I want to give you your names.
Well, I'm Samantha.
Samantha.
And I'm Shelley.
Shelley. Any comments to the board?
Like, I lived here before years and years and years ago when I had my first son, and then I moved to Florida and I didn't like it, so I came back, and I had my other apartment for 10 years. I worked with David for 10 years. And I gave Section 8 up to move into a 5-bedroom. I have 4 teenage sons, so it works out perfect because everybody has their own room. You know, having 4 boys is a lot. Yeah, and it's got 2 bathrooms, which helps me the board.
Shelley, any comments?
No.
Okay. Well, glad you're here.
Yeah.
And business of resident interest, open a public hearing on the 2018 and 2019 capital plans and the 5-year 2020 to 2024 capital plan. We received those capital plans.
And these, you can see in the resident advisory board went through these in great detail. These come from the building assessments that we had to have done as part of our RAD conversion. So under that, they put things into 3 categories. The first is critical, and that needs to be done in the first year. The next is non-critical, which is in the 2nd year or your 1st year of RAD conversion, and then everything else, which has to be done in the next 18 years. So these Jack has spent a lot of time working these up so that they match the analysis that we received, and so that we can get all this work done in the time frame that we have to. The cost of the work and our capital fund are in very good alignment, and we will be able to do all the work with our 18 and 19 capital funds. And then I just finished the pro forma, which is a projection of the budgeting for going to project-based vouchers. And we actually did very well and should be able to more than make the replacement reserves. In addition, we should be able to put aside administrative reserves. And I included in that budget, you'll be happy to know, a tenant services position, because we won't be in public housing, so we will not be eligible for Ross funding. So if we get Ross funding this year, that's great, we get to keep it for 3 years. But if we don't, that was one reason I was really wanting to do these projections myself, so that I could see, yes, we really can support the tenant services, a Ross position, if you will.
Just because
Full-time.
some people might not know, ROS translates as resident
Opportunities and self-sufficiency.
And Lorelei Morissette has been doing that, and has a sash piano. So this would actually mean that we could have that Ross position full-time and not have to rely on additional funding stream or other work. Which is nice, because she spent a lot of time in family housing, which is
I work with her.
great.
But I know Lorelei, I've known her since I was a teenager, so.
I do all the lunches, stuff we do.
Yeah, we help up here with the lunches and breakfast and stuff for the kids, just to keep it going. We don't have a lot of people up here that want to help with that. There's only very few. We've tried to get other people, and it's just me and
They
her.
don't want
Those we switch off.
Well, that's great.
Thank you for
Great
what you're
that you
doing.
do it.
It makes a
And I'm not
difference.
required to do, neither one of us are required for community service or anything. We just do it because the kids.
What?
I have teenagers that have brought friends, like my son and his girlfriend have come, community service hours for high school. That's how I get a lot of them to come. Come help, my
Yeah,
son's
that's great.
girlfriend just did the last 4 vacations and got her 40 hours in just one year.
Super.
So,
Yeah.
I
I'm
try
glad
to
when
get,
it works out well for everybody.
Everyone, yeah.
yeah.
Any more comments on the capital plans and capital?
Because we got after this one, the letter, I live with the letter.
Oh, yeah.
We got a wonderful letter from the Sunrise Rotary. It will be in the next packet. It didn't make it in terms of this packet, but it was in the newspaper just thanking the
Yeah.
residents and also Lorelei for all the hard work that they do
Great.
in contributing to the lunch and breakfast program. So it was just a really wonderful letter in the newspaper. and
Well, I was
I
recently
really
trying to
thankful.
work out something with Lorelei about getting programs, I mean, for the summer, things for kids to do, because there's a lot of them and they're all the same age and not being in school, it gets really crazy. So I was like, if she does lunch and breakfast, I could do some activities at night to wind them down a little bit maybe. We're still trying to talk about it and maybe, I don't know,
Yeah.
to get something together, because the fighting between the little ones
Well,
up here. It's summer.
It's time to
vacations.
start planning for the summer. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yes, I do know Lorelei has already thought of a lot of ideas.
Oh, yeah,
She's
it's
started
come up,
looking-
yeah.
Yeah, so I appreciate that you guys are sharing ideas with her and that's awesome.
Even if it's hula hoops and chalk, they still like that. You
Sure.
know, it's just
Oh, that's great.
something.
So 736 meals were served for the 3 weeks of the vacations. And most of those, that's Moore Court and Ledgewood, but this is twice as large as Moore Court, so. it's-
Yeah, there was one vacation and I had 41 kids and you hit age 30.
Yeah.
So,
More
it's
than-
really, that's great, thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.
Really
And I have an
wonderful.
appointment with the people at 10 o'clock
Mhm.
in July, June.
So, are we ready
So
to
I can
close
go and
the
get the rest.
I don't have anything more to say. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Which,
Capital.
So I officially close this public hearing. And the next step is to adopt the 2018-2019 capital plans and the 5-year 2020 to 2024 capital plan as presented. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt them.
Thank
I
you.
guess I'm gonna be number one. Tom, you would too.
Yes, I'm second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
What we do for the camera is to raise a hand as well. Okay.
I'm off camera.
Yeah, it's all right. You don't have to.
Opposed, no? No abstentions? The capital plans have passed. Policy under consideration, process of communication in advance of publication.
So, they're not in here, but there are 2 pieces of work that Christine's group has done very thoughtfully. One is the resident handbook, and I started reading that today. And then the other is to create a template that everybody will use when they have a memo that needs to go out to residents. And it will have, you know, the who, the what, the when, the where, and especially who to call, when is this being done, why are you doing this, what if I have concerns, and I'd like to see the staff get it out 14 days in advance of anything happening, and at the very latest 7.
Okay.
But I think I'd rather see 14 days myself, because I think people, you know, need a little time to think about things, and then, you know, all of a sudden go, well, what was that again? And so I want to make sure that people really have enough time.
Hi, Karen.
You're
How are you?
right.
Hey, hi, Karen.
How'd you go to the stove?
We go over there. Okay.
Put you right here.
Sit right in front of the
I don't
camera.
think I'm that
Oh, is that
ugly
Jen?
to break it, but
Yeah.
you never will.
Right here.
Karen, that's the new lady. That's the
Karen?
new lady, that's the new lady. Hi, new lady.
Carol.
I never met before.
Yes.
And I didn't catch your name.
Karen,
Karen.
trouble, yes, trouble. I was in school too, wasn't I? Yeah, see?
We have passed the capital plans, and we've talked about the policy of communication in advance of publication. We're now moving on to staff reports, portfolio manager, and property manager. And basically, Jack Mahoney in this lovely, beautiful blue, he is talking about the fact that the shrubbery removed from Hayes revealed a lot of mildew and moss on the siding. So the staff power washed and removed old leaves and debris that was behind all the shrubbery. You can see why it was important to make what makes Hayes Court look kind of naked, but it will undoubtedly mean the buildings are in better shape.
And I think the same is true with Moore Court. And, you know, those were 2 where we really should have gotten the notice out much more in advance and let people get used to the idea that this stuff is really gotta go.
Yeah, there was a lot
Yeah, we know.
of flashback on that one.
And the other is that
We can.
as a result of having them done,
Yeah.
we can now look and see, well, what do we need to do, especially at Moore Court? People identified immediately that one of the things they were missing now was a board, something that sort of divided where their apartment was from the next person. So now we're really thinking and talking about how can we put up a nice divide of some kind.
To have our little privacy.
Yeah, to give a little privacy back. But the condition of the buildings in both cases was pretty serious when we took the things down. So, there you have it.
Any other comments? So resident wellness and services,
The yellow is the other one you always like to look
Right,
at, which
yes.
is the property manager's reports. And
Oh, you're funny.
focus on. So it does make a big difference.
Despite what Courtney keeps putting on here, the rent collections are really very good at Ledgewood and Morpeth.
Yes.
Very, very good.
Mine in time.
Thank you all. Thank you, thank you.
I remember the years when they were not so good. And,
When I comes out of the bank, I don't have to work at it. Go on.
well,
No, this is the 7th.
It's good. And it's been great, the fire department's been going to the staff on all of our inspections. And the fire department's really sort of upped its level of operation, of inspection, of, if you will, of our apartments, which is great. And they're picking up things like extension cords and some things like that that we don't pick up because they're not, you know, in the structure, but the fire department picks them up. And so I think that's working really well, and it's been a great partnership.
wonderful.
They're also going to re-inspections, which is helpful, so it's not just the initial inspection, it's when they have to, when they get a notice saying that we have to re-inspect your apartment due to some issue. And so it's nice to have the fire department there because they can really explain to people why the egresses need to be cleared, and it's just, it's really, really helpful, I think, yeah.
So East Court and Melrose Terrace, those inspections, at least that's what
Yeah.
Courtney has written about. Okay. Resident wellness and services, family self-sufficiency.
So we had a very busy month. I'll start with just a few items that the Wellness and Services Group have been looking at. We've been working for months on our air conditioner policy and the process of installing air conditioners and checking air conditioners, and so far that looks really good, and it's been very cool. So now that it's warming up, hopefully we'll see really how well it works, but so far so good. Other than that, we've also been looking at the memo, as Chris mentioned. We've been looking at better ways of communicating with residents. And also, one thing that we've been looking at again is our smoke-free policy. We have been smoke-free at all of our housing sites as of May 1st, and we're finding that it's really hard to always enforce the smoke-free policy, and so we're looking at ways to work with residents to improve that and to support the property managers in that process.
So the property managers are the ones who have to catch people in the act.
Yeah, it's really challenging,
Oh, picnic table, like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, some sites it's harder, you know, some sites it's more detrimental to neighbors than other sites. So for instance, in the Salmon Island apartments, it's really hard because a lot of residents are very sensitive to the smoke, and so it affects their health. And so it's not just that it's a rule, it's that it's stopping people from living in their own apartments, and so comfortably and safely. So we're working on, and that building specifically, these sites are even harder because everybody has their own unit, and so it's harder to sort of follow up on, but we definitely are looking at ways that other housing authorities have implemented policies. Also, we're looking at ways that other organizations have enforced, but it is tricky.
Very difficult.
They have that gazebo down there, right, the smoking gazebo.
I think it's
I remember
At the
years
high
and
rise.
years, like 20 years ago, my aunt lived there, people would be able to just sit out on their balconies and
Yeah.
smoke.
Yeah.
So, yeah, now they have that one spot, I see people out there all the time.
Yeah. Which is good.
It's
great.
People are going out,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because it goes up around side, you know.
Yeah.
We sit on the picnic table.
Yeah.
Well, it's very, very hard to enforce, and so it's very frustrating because for residents that have health and breathing issues, it really is tough. And then they're sort of saying to Courtney, well, come on, enforce this thing. And the enforcement standard is, we literally have to walk into the apartment seeing a person smoking. And then we may be able to remove them, may.
You can't do that because you need a 48-hour notice before you come in unless it's an
And the
emergency.
Springfield Housing Authority caught a woman 3 or 4 times and still had very, very difficult time getting her to move on.
Yeah.
So it's just very difficult, and
I go outside, no, I don't smoke in my house at all.
It's tough.
Cause I got 4 grandkids that live next door, so they come over all the time, so I just smoke.
Yeah, my aunt was on a breathing machine because just years of smoking, she stopped, so I know exactly what
Yeah.
you're talking about. When they're going all over the balconies, most of the time, except for at night, she would not open, like to get the air. And it's
Exactly.
good for her because of the breathing, but she just didn't want to open anything.
Right.
And then the stiller from the air conditioner is why it's 100 outside, it wasn't any good either.
Yes. Christine, could you comment just briefly on that, the paragraph that starts with sometimes our adult residents are unkind to one another, which is a
Yes.
beautiful and graceful way to say it.
We have found that, we have policies for harassment and for discrimination. However, we do not have, we don't have a bullying policy, specifically because we don't have a really good way of enforcing it. It's really challenging. And so we're looking at working with other organizations, including the Vermont, now I'm spacing on it, the Vermont
The Community
Community Justice Center, to talk to them about how to build more caring communities and to have cultural rules amongst the residents, not necessarily that the property managers need to enforce. Because sometimes it's not discrimination, harassment, sometimes it's just that people aren't very nice. And that doesn't always help in communities. It doesn't make communities feel better. So how do we work with residents to create neighborhoods where people are a little bit kinder to one another and we don't get into those situations? And we see it, to be honest, we see it mostly at our senior sites. It's the seniors being mean to seniors or adults with disabilities being mean to one another.
Cranky old people.
And so that's where really we're starting.
I'm like,
Because
up
I
here
think-
we do stuff together, like, the kids really bring us together up here. Mine don't never come outside, but I do have little nieces that are out here.
Yeah.
Going to parents sometimes can be, not so easy, but.
And I think you guys work really hard at it because you have to because of the kids and the families.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time, and we might be coming to you and asking for what works with you guys. But right now, we're really exploring what could work in the senior
We
housing
police
sites
each
and
other,
the
we
senior-
police our own,
Yeah.
Yeah.
environment. If somebody's got a problem with somebody, hey, what's going on, even if you take a neighbor or whatever, for moral support or whatever, I mean, that's what works here.
Sometimes up here you can find, okay, so 2 people might not get along, but you can always find that middleman and get to, that's how it works up here.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
I know that
Christine
goes
said,
90% of the time I'm the middleman.
Probably coming back and maybe talking to the RAP board about it and just having some of you folks come in and talk with our residents around how do you do this? How do you be that middle person
That's kind of
and not get,
hard. Yeah, it's gonna be kind of hard too, because if you get a bunch of people with different disabilities, they're all, they respond in different ways.
Yeah.
Than, 2 kids arguing outside and having to deal with that as to 2 people that might have bipolar, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, but there's always ways.
Yeah.
And if there's somebody that can be reasoned with and somebody that is there to reason with them, then hopefully you can work it out. I think where this gets problematic is that it's unchecked. We're not there all the time. And people are hanging back because they don't want to be that person who intervenes. No one has permission to do that.
right.
Yeah.
So,
I'd be willing to be like a mediator or something.
I was just about to say something about a mediator, maybe there was a number, or I don't know.
that'd be great.
Somebody that could, come down to the building and be like, all right, what's going on? Because sometimes they do need that.
Someone from
I learned
the
that from my
outside who
aunt.
doesn't, who doesn't really,
No,
who doesn't know either
Yeah, it's
person.
not personal,
Yeah.
it's not.
That
I
would
know
be
you better
something
than I
that-
know that one.
Because we get a lot of complaints from residents like, this person is so mean, they're mean all the time. And, we have people fill out complaint forms and we follow up. However, we can't evict someone because they're not nice.
Because they're mean.
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
can't. So it's trying to come up with solutions to work with people. And sometimes people have no idea that they're being mean. If you said that to them, they would be very surprised that that's how they're coming across. And so we're doing a lot of research on it to try to come up with a program. And the wellness nurse that I work with has done some research as well, and we're meeting this week to, because we're gonna be meeting with residents in a week to just talk about what makes you feel good, meaning like filling your bucket. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. The kids do it at some elementary schools in Brattleboro, but it means filling your bucket with the things that make you happy. And so exploring what makes you feel good, and then going on to explore what doesn't make you feel good, and then hopefully we can identify some of those things, so.
I would definitely look at mediators. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, I would be willing to be a
Yeah,
mediator for
that'd be
somewhere
great.
else, not here, that would be foolish, but,
No,
you know, at some other housing.
no, that's-
That's a great idea.
And that's a
something
great
we hadn't thought
idea.
of. Yeah.
Yeah.
People in.
Yeah.
Because I'm a resident, I'm not a
Right.
landlord, I'm not, you know.
They had that years ago in the
Yeah.
high rise when my aunt lived there. There was one apartment, one lady. I don't know if you remember when, what was her name? A lot of people used to go to Sandy all the time.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Sandy was the go-to, but there was a person that lived in that building. Anytime something was going on, they went to this one person, and she was like the mediator of the building. But like she said, it's hard when you know everybody.
Mhm. I think I know who that is.
Like I said, I was
we
here
all
20
know
years
that.
ago.
I'm pretty sure I knew that.
Yes, we know.
She was good. She was
You're
really
right.
good. She really let people just.
And there was Maureen.
We're
I remember
already
so.
talking about the Ross, the resident service coordinator, Lorelai's work. I'm noticing that she was saying Samuel Elliott is continuing in their programs. Calming Corner is backed by popular demand, and that sounds like part of what we've been talking about.
And that was definitely created for a similar reason, to get people into a space, in a calming space where there was no negativity.
Yeah.
People need to learn how to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Which is hard to be a lot of years to do that, but I can agree to disagree.
Pick your battles.
I'm not a yes,
Mhm.
I don't have to be right.
And as you can see, Lorelai's trying to bring in several programs.
Yes.
She's coordinating with Early Ed Services
Mhm.
to start a parenting workshop, also coordinating with Edible Brattleboro to help support our family garden sites. And then and one thing I wanted to notice, let you know, I think it was sent to everybody, but we are having at the Kroll lot on the 28th of May at 4 o'clock, we will be doing more court youth artists will be putting up an art installation that will be staying there permanently. And that was through the Art in the Neighborhood program. So you're welcome
In
to
my
go.
calendar.
Yeah.
Okay, great, wonderful. I just wanted to make sure everybody had that.
Thank you, that's going to be good. Family self-sufficiency, Coordinator Lucy Taylor's.
She's doing great. She's she just recently had someone graduate very successfully. This person actually worked their way off of disability and is now working full time, which was really just a huge accomplishment for this particular person. And it was a very successful graduation. So we really wanted to have a party, but they said that they didn't want one, which was fine. I was really hoping to have
But we all signed a
I want a
card.
cake, and we sent a card. But it was really, really exciting. So that was wonderful. And that's not the mission by any means of family self-sufficiency. It was just sort of a wonderful situation for this particular person. Lucy has been really working on developing her PCC, which is an advisory group for the FSS program.
Yes.
And she's gotten some new people on board, which is great. She's worked really hard on that for the last year. So it's great to see that coming to fruition. And she did a little synopsis about the participant that graduated on there, so you can read that further. And then Shauna wasn't able to give me her notes in time, unfortunately, because she was at a training. But she did send me some notes afterwards, just saying that she has started a chronic conditions workshop, which is being held at the Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, and she's really worked to sign up new SASH participants through Wyndham Windsor. She has a bunch of people that have signed up. They're known as community participants.
How many SASH panels do we have?
We have 2, but one is split in half. So Lorelai has a half panel at Samuel Elliott Apartments, and I have a half panel at the Clover Commons, and then Shauna oversees a full panel, which is at Hayes Court, Melrose Terrace, and community. And so those community participants, we have signed an MOU with Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust to deliberately try to get services directly to them, because we found that when we were just signing people up all over Brattleboro, while that was great, we weren't really able to allocate our time well. So that's been really positive, and now they're starting to offer programs there, which are great.
Any comments, questions? Okay, let's move on then. To Housing Choice Voucher Program, Shelter Plus Care. Oh, these were the Resident Advisory Board minutes.
And their newsletters,
Yeah,
or
newsletters. So, here, it's Greg. This is the monthly program updates with Section 8 Shelter Plus Care and Transitions to Housing. 135 vouchers leased. We find we have a monthly housing surplus due to the TPV.
the tenant protection vouchers that
Tenant,
we
okay.
received in advance of the
Melrose.
Melrose move.
Okay.
I will tell you that one really unexpected event happened with the Transitions Housing Program.
Mhm.
David, who stays really on top of this stuff, called our state contact about a month and a half ago
Mhm.
and said, everything's okay in the state budget with transitions. Yep, everything's fine. And we said, okay, great. And then he got a call, I think last week, that said, your money is not going to come out of the Office of Equal Opportunity, OEO.
Mm.
And you have to fill out this application. And we have to have it by Friday.
Love when it happens.
And it was a real shocker. And so David called everybody.
What's up?
Olivia was looking for my niece, she's like,
David called everybody and said, wait a minute, and they all said, oh, we're sorry, we dropped the ball on it, and yes, you are coming out of OEO, and yes, you do have to fill out that application, and oh, we'll give you another week. Oh dear. But he's talking with them about, you know, how we can make it more secure next year, so we don't have this happen again.
Under Shelter Plus Care, it seems to be
It's fine.
subsidizing 29 and one individual searching. So,
We'll probably get up to 30 to 31, which is great.
any comments, questions? Okay.
And so the next bit of business on the Section 8 program is the CMAP certification, which this is new for Tom, maybe new for Donna. I don't think it is new for you, because we only have to do it every other year. So David and I are always like, is this our year? So while this looks like just yet another very boring, tedious HUD form, which it is, behind it, those of you that have been in my office can attest, were just piles and piles and piles of files that I had to go through. So I have to go through and audit anywhere from 10 to 12 files randomly chosen for every one of these things. And I have to check his inspections register and the wait list and make sure that people went through the wait list the way they're supposed to, that everything is documented, blah, 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 blah. So it came out very, very well. David's records are just immaculate, they're in very good condition. I did find one thing that wasn't in there. I'm always happy when I find one. And that was only because the tenant had been with us for so long, the participant, that they had 2 files. And the piece of documentation that I needed was in file number 1. It's something that you get only on lease up. And you're supposed to remember to put it into file number 2, and I was like, David, it's not in there. So
This is a game of hide and seek.
it's the only fun I get out of looking through, you know, all this stuff.
Well, at least he knows you were looking.
But yeah, well, I have to fill out lots of charts to
Yes.
attest all this. So it's done, it came out very, very well. We just got our report from our software vendor on both public housing and Section 8 reporting, and Section 8 is at 100%, and public housing was at like 99.16. So, go figure. But that's great, because HUD goes into those systems and pulls a lot of the data that then comes into this scoring.
So it is worth all of the effort that you put into it.
Yes, and so I would ask that you approve this so I can file it with HUD tomorrow.
Do I hear a motion?
Moved.
A second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No abstentions. We approve this CMAP certification with much appreciation for all the work you put into it.
Well, it's all David's good work. It's actually very nice. It's fun to do.
Good. The review on monthly check listing.
So you may interrogate Carol on the monthly check listing.
I always marvel at the Green Mountain Power checks. It's like, yikes. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
crazy.
So needless to say, if we can really pull this off and get to RAD, then the first thing we're gonna look at, Jack and I we talk about it all the time, is energy efficiency, especially in the high rise. That's the first place. And then these buildings were built for solar panels, so that's certainly something that we could do here. But the high rise is just, we got it.
Donna and I had a chance to meet with Jack Mahoney. I commented on the fact that somebody had told me that the ladders and the things there were the installation of solar panels at Brattleboro Commons, which was interesting and news to me. And I gather it had sort of been news to Jack.
Yeah, well, yes.
But it's a great step forward, which is wonderful. Check signing, Tom, you're signing checks?
This month, yes,
This month?
and I think you have someone for next month, but I don't think you have
It's
anyone.
me.
Yes, and beyond next month, I don't know if you have anybody signed
No,
up
we
yet, but
don't. We need somebody for July.
I can't do August, so I'd be happy to do July.
Oh, that's very
Oh,
generous.
well, thank you.
Wonderful.
Okay.
I can do August. July, I actually am gonna be gone for a week for the bank, plus a week's vacation. So I still could have done 2 weeks, but I think it would have been more of a pain.
That's
Well,
better-
let's just do it this way.
No,
then.
Better to
So,
have,
Yes.
great, Tom, thank you. So what, have you for July and Donna for August?
And I'm going to be away Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, one of the weeks in June, but I will be able to sign checks on Friday.
Oh,
I'll be back in town.
yes, I can't do August because I'll be in New Orleans celebrating my 71st birthday.
Oh, wow.
It's becomes an annual tradition for me.
Wonderful.
That's great.
August what?
The end of August.
I'm in August too.
Yes,
She wants to go with
but
you.
no,
She's like, I'll take the trip.
I've been several times.
She wants to go.
Yes, I used to go to the Jazz Fest every year. I did it about 18 years.
Mhm.
It's getting crazy, but
Yeah, it's different.
it's
now.
the 25th.
That's your birthday?
Yes.
Mine is the 23rd.
Okay.
All right.
Virgo's on the cusp of Leo.
Okay, large projects in progress.
So RAD, I mentioned that earlier, we're working away on that. Christine had in her note the MTW conference. And surprise, surprise, tomorrow I will be on the phone at 11 o'clock to discuss the award of the FEMA grant.
And a reminder that the FEMA grant is for
Melrose Terrace. It's to demolish 11 buildings, to widen the stream 3 feet, to lower it 3 feet, to put a box culvert at the George Miller Bridge, to create the whole area. 5 of the 8 acres will become park-like. It has walking trails, it'll have all kinds of things, and it'll be for flood storage mitigation. So that when there's a flood, the water will be held in. And the way it's designed, going up like this, the large objects which all came down, like the propane tanks and oil tanks and all of that, should come up at Melrose and stay there as the water recedes. So it'll be a storage area for all that really toxic stuff that came down. So we're talking tomorrow. It's still at $3.2 million. Our match is $625,000. And we're now in a deep press to get our match. So, but it's great. All of a sudden it's falling out of the sky. Here it comes. So,
Something has taken a long time to happen.
yeah, it's been. Oh, you'll love this. The terms and conditions that we're going to go over tomorrow, it says, and the work will be completed by August 30th, 2019.
Nice.
They better get going then.
I read that and I went, oh, you're kidding me. And Jack just cracked up. And we said, well, that just shows you how long. I mean, that was written in 2016. So they've given us 3 years to complete the work.
So you're
You
adding
better get on it.
Yeah.
And finally, Red Clover 2.
Red Clover 2, we have made, the town has made a community development application for us. We are going to the Vermont Housing Conservation Board in June, and we will get our state funding. They're going to recommend we get our state funding. We will then go in September for our federal funding. And the reason that had to get separated like that is because we've had the change in the financial management, and they wanted to just have some more, they wanted to give us more time to really produce the kinds of records that they want to see. It also will enable us to get this audit completed. We did have our FDS, which is the translation of real accounting into some HUD thing. That's been done, but that doesn't help them at all. But it does help us because it means accountants have come in and looked at the books and the records, and you know, Carol and Mary have a much better sense of what that all looks like. We will get our, it looks like we'll get our accountants in July, and we'll press them to get their audit to us much sooner, so that the federal staff at the HCB can get our audit prior to their September meeting.
Good.
But I don't, they're very favorable, they really want to fund this. It's just their underwriting is, yeah, it's very rigorous, and they're right. You know, they have a right, and they're correct in wanting to see that we have very good financial management back in place. So,
And just a reminder, the number of apartments at Red Clover 2,
18.
18.
And that's it.
And that's it, and we are going to enter executive session to discuss matters.
That means we gotta get out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen.
Karen, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I had to run to the store, you know.
Is that on address about breakfast?
And you know,
It was in the reformer, I'll make sure you get a copy of it.
Do I have a motion to
I'll
enter
make sure you get a
executive?
copy.
Okay,
Thanks.
Thomas moving.
Have a good night, everybody.
Donna
Nice to see you.
seconding,
Thanks.
saying, all those in favor?
Bye. Yay.